9, it's the Gary Bowden Show on the HAR News Network.
All right, next up on the show and in our studio, Spike, this is great. We've got guests lined up outside the door of the studio today. So many of our interviews are done on the phone. Rob Lambert joins us. Rob, thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Bright and early on a Monday. Rob's the owner of Sentry Surveillance in Buchanan.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to make sure I got the location right because I know you're working with schools and other areas. The story, I think it was Valentine's Day here just a couple of weeks ago in Parkland, Florida, of the school shooting has cast a lot of attention, certainly on guns again. Big battles in the legislature in the state of Florida, big battles again in Congress. But another huge story that always is talked about when we hear of one of these shootings is security in our schools. Are we protecting our kids? When you send that child off, are they going to be safe? And God knows in this day and age, Rob, that has to be a scary situation for moms and dads. You're working with a program called Code Red, which, and I'm going to let you describe it much better than I can, but it essentially lets you become, in very quick fashion, we hope, kind of an independent set of eyes that immediately is looking at cameras within these schools and can identify and provide information on where a shooter might be. Why don't you jump in and kind of tell us how Code Red works then?
Well, obviously schools are starting to put in more security cameras,
Sure.
which is where, we've kind of been brought into this. And remote view is one of the things that we do. We not only set up school administrators where they can view cameras for other reasons,
Sure.
But we have actually assembled an operations center where we're able to actually log in on a school's camera systems within 30 seconds of being called. And we can provide Overwatch support.
You would get notified by 911 or law enforcement?
It's going to depend on the area and how they want to do things,
okay.
But yes.
And so you jump into your command center,
yes,
where you can immediately pull up the cameras from XYZ elementary school or high school,
absolutely,
and start looking at those cameras to see what's going on inside the building, which is obviously a big problem for law enforcement.
Yeah, historically we've seen law enforcement responding to these active shooter situations, and they arrive with very little information. A lot of times the information's false or conflicting, and so the shooter has a big advantage.
Yeah.
We want to take that advantage away.
The key that you're trying to provide is this speed and knowledge.
Yes. It's all about fast response.
Yeah, because most of the what did you say the duration is of most of these?
Oh, most of these shootings they're over in under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Now it's a testament to our officers. Often they're on scene in roughly 3 to 4 minutes. That's amazing in itself. But from that point, we have got to get them the information they need and get them in that school. If you go the wrong direction when you go in a school, you've already wasted the time you had.
Right.
Or if, as in Sandy Hook, they confronted a parent outside that someone had said he was carrying something. So they have no visual cues as to what was really going on. So they have to do the best they can. So they wasted a further 3.5 minutes confronting someone outside the school.
We're talking with Rob Lambert, who's the owner of Sentry Surveillance in Buchanan, and you sell security systems and the cameras and all. But I thought the really nice thing about what you're doing and spreading this word about Code Red is you can work with a school that already has some or all of the equipment and tie them into your Code Red program.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we're doing this because it's the right thing to do. I have children in school systems. Our employees have schools in the West Virginia school system. And basically, we've made this service very affordable for schools. Mm-hmm. It basically covers the expense of the technology on our end and keeping that up to date. And then...
Yeah. Well, we've got to take a little break here at the bottom of the hour to check news, but we'll get into some of the ways that you actually are making sure that on a regular basis that all that equipment is working. Golly, you'd hate to have a system fail at an inopportune time, obviously. So you're even doing some of those things. And we'll get some more information about Code Red, a big help for security systems in our schools. We're talking with Rob Lambert. We'll be back. First, we're going to check in and find out what's happening all around the state of West Virginia on this Monday morning. We'll be back right after your Metro News update.
You're listening to the Gary Bowden Show on the AJR News Network.
We're back with Rob Lambert, owner of Century Surveillance in Buchanan, talking about a program called Code Red, which essentially allows Rob to set up a command center linked to cameras in schools, whereby if he gets notified in the event of an emergency, he becomes the eyes for law enforcement who are sending their people into that school, sometimes blind, right, Rob? They don't
most
know,
of the time
they
blind.
don't know where a shooter is. Why aren't cameras in the schools where they have them? Do all schools have security cameras now? For the most part, I would think
it's more in
might
some
not
than
be
others.
what you'd like to see.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think this whole thing is going to drive more security cameras.
Why aren't they connected to law enforcement, or why isn't someone in the school in a locked down command center? Why doesn't that work?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and when we do this, we're actually talking to law enforcement themselves. We're not just, coming up with our own theories as to how this should work. We talk to them so that we make sure it works.
They're suggesting that this is the way to do it as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, I actually, we've done several interviews ourselves with law enforcement, and that's how we come up with this stuff. But you were asking about it being in the school, for instance. That's assuming that you can find the principal. The principal, if it's the principal, for instance, the principal has a big job.
Yeah,
it's
mayhem. Yeah,
they're trying to salvage their life, the life of students. They do not have the time.
Yeah.
First of all, and second of all, they don't operate the system enough. They probably operate a system in a school more than anybody else. But a big problem also is that you can't count on them being there that day. What if they're sick? What if?
Yeah. How about somebody at the police or sheriff's department?
Again, that comes down to a lack of experience with security camera systems.
And sometimes resources. Sometimes
exactly.
It's a small...
All the officers are going to be at the scene. That's their job. Their
Yeah.
job is to go in and confront this gunman.
Yeah.
My job is to get them there, to provide, to operate this system. Anybody who's tried to operate a security camera system knows they're not intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
You have to operate them on a regular basis if you're going to do it successfully. And we're talking about under stress.
Yeah.
I would be I'm not even going to be in the building, and I will be under stress.
Sure.
I need to be able to do that almost automatically.
Yeah. We all know that electronics can fail. You also help with that protection, making sure that these systems are checked routinely.
Yeah, and that comes from experience as well. We've been specializing in security cameras for 8 years. So we know that the moment you need something the most is when technology is going to crap out on you. So we check it every morning. We log on to every school every morning, verify that they have all the cameras they're supposed to have, make sure the connection's good, make sure there's no technical issues. And if there are, we let the school know so that they can get that taken care of, rather than finding out you've had a camera out for 3 months and didn't know it. Yeah.
We're talking with Rob Lambert of Century Surveillance about security systems, camera systems for all schools, grade schools, middle schools, high schools. How many schools are you working with?
We have
already?
5 schools so far.
In the area?
I'm sorry,
Central?
7.
Okay.
We have Taylor County and Ritchie County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get the word out and get this. Yeah.
Talking to others. What about the mapping? In other words, how do you become acquainted? Well, number one, how do you suggest to folks, advise folks where their cameras should be to best assist you if you're going to be the eyes? And then how do you map that out for them?
Well, we work with law enforcement to actually, we get a print of the school, and then we kind of digest that and make it our own. Mm-hmm. And we set up zones where the cameras are seeing. We look at the building and say, we need to see these areas.
Okay.
So we attack it in reverse. We say, we need to see these areas So we name those zones, and that's mostly corridors at this point, cafeterias, the gymnasium, so that we can, if we see somebody moving on a camera, we're able to pull up the label of that camera and then know what zone that is, so that we've tried to make this system be as intuitive as possible. So, I mean, when you're under stress, you need to have a system where you think as little as possible.
Right.
It needs to be automatic. So we've put a lot of work into this system.
A lot of these school systems and law enforcement departments have drills now with schools. Where you're connected to a school, do you become a part of that drill?
Oh, absolutely. It's very important. Yeah. In fact, this Saturday, Taylor County is going to be doing a drill at Anna Jarvis Elementary. Yeah. So I'll be in my center directing them and helping them find the bad guy. Yep.
What I mean,
that helps them to become familiar with the school, which is important.
Yeah.
Helps me to to sharpen my skills. It helps everybody sharpen their skills so that.
Did you have to go through some kind of training to be in a position to do this?
No, it was just I think with my company, it has kind of lined things up to where I saw a need and saw the technology in place I was just in a perfect place to do it.
And again, the Code Red program can be installed, put in place, even if your school already has cameras.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll pick up.
In fact, I encourage that.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough cameras, let us come in and use what you got. Anything we can provide officers is better than nothing.
Right. Talking with Rob Lambert. We're out of time. Rob, again, thanks for joining us in the studio.
Thank you, Gary.
That's interesting, and it always becomes such a big topic. In addition to guns, the topic of how do we make sure our kids are safe. So Code Red, interesting program, and it'll be interesting to see how it grows in the area.
Thank you.